Hey, welcome back to the channel. It's awesome that you're tuning in. In today's video we're going to be doing a little bit of a chit chat about the Herk Pulsar. A mini PC that has some interesting specifications, but particularly also when it comes to the price point. Is something like this still worth picking up? Comes with an AMD Ryzen 7, having 8 cores, 16 threads, but what I think is a little bit of disappointment is maybe going to be the Radeon RX 8 graphics card as in here. Because if you're going to be playing some games, maybe this can be one of those limitations. But the Herk Pulsar Mini PC comes still with a very, let's say, very nice price point. And I think that's going to be one of the strong points, because we do have a very powerful CPU on the inside. Different variations, you have the Pro and the basic model, different colors. We're having different storages, all the way up to 2 terabytes, then having different memories, and then of course we're having different blocks. And there seems to be even different operating systems. For the version we're reviewing today, only has like 512 gigabyte, actually more than enough for me at this point, and then having 60 gigabyte of memory. So when it comes to mini PCs, sometimes you will be surprised when it comes to the performance and what you can actually do with it. So let's do a quick unboxing and let's see what we're getting inside of the package. I'm also curious how it is with the quality and the size, because the Pulsar is going to be a little bit, let's say, smaller or slimmer than the previous model we've reviewed. So it comes with a very extended manual with explanations, just how everything works, how you need to connect it. I don't know what happened with mine over here on the inside, but normally everything is packed up very well. So this is the mini PC, and I think one of the appealing things is that it comes with a powerful AMD Ryzen chipset on the inside, but it also still has like a very nice form factor. It's quite small when it comes to that. But let's do a little bit of fighting with the freaking plastic. And first of all, when you're looking at the bottom, it feels like the bottom part is actually going to be having a little metal to it. Okay, 90 volts, and of course the voltages and everything is going to be in here. So pressing delete for entering the BIOS and F7 for the boot, let's say, options. We can remove the plastic over here. And then at the front we're finding the first connections, and then of course at the back we have a couple of them. But let's do a quick overview of those. So AMD Radeon graphics, and then having the AMD Ryzen 5000 Series 7. Yep, they went for a 5000 series, and I find it quite interesting. And headphone jack out at the front, 2 USB 3.0 and the on-off switch. We do have 2 HDMI out, USB-C connections, USB 2.0 and the input for the power supply. Construction wise, this thing looks kind of nice, absolutely, when you're going to be looking at the intake and the outtake. So this thing is nicely built when it comes to the way everything looks, and also when it comes to the cooling method. But let's deep dive into the box and let's see what's actually going on over here. So let's see what it comes to the power supply. Let's see what they send me in here. I think we need to have like an adapter for that, or did they give me one? Nope. We do have the bracket, because we can actually put it behind and monitor if you want to. This is going to be very convenient if you want to do something like custom building. But yeah, let's plug this thing in. Overall, let's say it's a basic power supply. So removing the bottom part is super easy. Only need to remove 4 screws over here. You can fairly reach them with a screwdriver. You don't need to tamper with the pads over here. You can just remove it using this sticking rubber. You can just pull from there. And then here we're finding the NVMe. Everywhere you can upgrade it fairly easy. They mount it with some extra screws and a very nice metal plate over here. And if you want to upgrade the RAM modules, you can actually do that fairly easy. So let's see what they're using today. Go Fatu. Okay, that is a brand I've personally never heard of. And it seems to be also, we're still having an extension bay over here. So it is have a very tiny format, or it's like, it's very nicely built. And upgradability, it's going to be super easy. But let's take a close look at the specifications of the mini PC itself, with some CPUs at, of course. Okay, so how about the CPU? So let's do a little bit chit chat with the AMD Ryzen 7 5825U, having a max TDP of 15 watts. Mainboard from the brand Herk itself. It's also known as the model Pulsar. So the memory is going to be only DDR4, 16 GB and running around like 1600 MHz with a dual channel configuration. So the graphics is not going to be the fastest, it's going to be an older GPU, with a simple reason because the chip itself doesn't utilize the 780M model that we've seen before. But let's do for the fun, let's say a bench or a stress test of the CPU, and the reason why, because we're going to be checking out some temperatures. So when it comes to the temperatures, let's chit chat about it. I've been doing the stress test for some time now, and you can see it hitting 75.3 Celsius. But let's do also, let's just chat about the AMD Ryzen, the 7 5825U. So it has 8 cores, 16 threads, 15 TDP already mentioned before. Does have like a max of 2000 megahertz of frequency with a boost of 4.5 gigahertz, also known as the Bercelo Socket FP6. So this is a quite already old chip when it comes to that. And yeah, when it comes to, let's say, the configuration, this thing is made in 2022 already. So as making these videos, this thing is already a couple of years old. But I do wonder how does it hold up when it comes to comparison to other CPUs. So in here you can see with the Cinebench R23 single core, so it's going to be comparing with the Ryzen 5 Pro 6650U, having a little bit more power, but also if you're going to be looking in the 6800U, the AMD Ryzen 7, this has like a score 1575. So when you're going to be looking at the score of the CPU compared with the 6th generation and even the 7th generation, some of them, it's quite interesting, and I can understand why they maybe went for this particular CPU itself. But how about the Cinebench R23, the multi-score? So in the multi-score it does perform quite well, so it's comparable with some other, let's say, CPUs from AMD Ryzen, of course. You can even see the 7730U when it comes to the 7th series. So even when this thing is already like from 2022, comparable with other ones out there, I think it's not that bad at all. So also with the multi-core score, I must say that I'm quite surprised when it comes to some newer models. Another thing I wanted to check out is the Geekbench 64-bit single core, and the reason why you can see even in here I'm finding an i5 11th generation, and you can see that there's like a couple of points, only a smaller difference. So if you're going to be looking at different kind of, let's say, tests, even with Geekbench and other ones, you can just see that it does have like an overall not bad performance for an old chip. But the older chip, how is it when it comes to drivers? So if you're going to be looking into drivers, so software driver, I can still update it, or so far I can see, but I do notice that some people saying that we did have some limitations there. So performance wise and everything, we're going to be testing it out with a couple of games just to see what's going on over there. But let's update this and, you know, let's see what we can do with this device. But when it comes to these older AMD Ryzen models, I've been testing them for some time now. And I can tell you, if you're going to be playing some basic indie games or some other old school stuff, you can just play them fairly nice. However, if you're going to be looking at the GPU, just with a simple game like Blaze Rush on the highest graphical settings on 1080p, you can see that they're even having around like almost 90% of the GPU in use. But I just wanted to see what's going on if you're going to be testing out some other basic games I love to play, like Pac-Man 256.
Final crash! Final crash! Final crash!
But how about playing some basic two-dimensional games? You can just actually see that you have no problem whatsoever. I think these mini PCs can be great if you just want to play some indie games with friends. I've been using these things for quite a long time, even having like a 4-player, let's say, couch gaming evening. We can just plug in all kinds of controllers, and in this way we can just enjoy yourself. Some, let's say, Turtles, Street of Rage, you name it, it runs perfectly even on this older version when it comes to the AMD Ryzen setup.
Focus.
Access granted. Humans are so frail.
Leave me alone, buddy. Jump down. Okay, you got it.
But if you're going to be running some three-dimensional games, let's go Tony Hawking old school days. But with this remaster version, yeah, we did see this on many different mini PCs with onboard GPUs, but now we're going to be having a big problem, because when it comes to this older AMD Ryzen chipset, you can see it struggles big time. But let's jump into the game, and you will even see that we do have a little bit of an, let's say, a frame dip. I must say that I'm using it on 1080p full, let's say the maximum, at least like when it comes to the graphical part so far. So yeah, we can actually tweak that if you want to, and we can just mess around with it. But maybe fun to check out what we can do with it when it comes to maybe GPU upgrading or something else. So, but for now, out of the box, if you're going to be looking at it, it is playable to a certain point if you don't mind the 30 frames per second. At least it's a little bit of a downside, but again, that's why again with an older GPU CPU combination, particularly the GPU, and this is kind of cool. We can still play it on an AMD Ryzen 5000 series. So when you're going to be playing some games, 2-dimensional, 3-dimensional, you can see there's a lot of difference. So with Tony Hawk, we had like a little bit of a downside when it comes to the graphical part. This game looks absolutely amazing too when it comes to the Chris Bandicoot trilogy. And yeah, you can see even on low graphics now, will see that we're not going to be hitting the 60 frames per second on this onboard GPU.
Wonder how much I can get.
Spend it wisely, kid.
But how about emulation? So emulation is on these, let's say, lower end chips quite interesting. I mean, particularly when you're going to be looking into also the higher end stuff, PlayStation 2, PlayStation Portable, I do wonder how far we can push it. This with a simple reason: if you want to do upscaling and you're really interested in getting into 4K rendering resolution with the onboard older chipset, yeah, particularly the GPU, I think there we're going to be finding a limitation. The same way having our 3D dimensional games, when we're going to be needing GPU rendering power, yeah, the older version of the AMD Ryzen are fine, but not like saying this is going to be the best of the best. And newer versions can be sometimes more interesting than these older ones. But let's get into it, let's play a couple of games.
Rocket launcher.
So with N64 we do have some overall good emulation performance on 4K rendering resolution. But if you're going to be pushing this device with Sega Saturn, yeah, you can actually see this struggles big time when it comes to that. So it's unfortunate, and this is one of the things I wanted to showcase, that when it comes to, let's say, these older AMD Ryzens, it is playable with many different games. But let's say if we're going to be escaping, we're going to be setting this to a different rendering resolution. So let's say we're going to be setting Panzer Dragoon to, let's say, just a normal. So let's skip the 2K, that's even not possible. So we're having like 8K, 4K, let's put it to 1080p, or maybe let's say put it on 720p. Let's boot it up and let's see what's going to be going on then. And this is going to be in such an overall better performance. Maybe we can even do some 1080p anyway, because you can see we're still having a lot of GPU power left. But 720p emulation performance on this older AMD Ryzen is playable. So it's kind of cool that we can even do a little bit of an upscaling, even 720 or maybe 1080p, depending what kind of game. So it's possible if two-dimensional shooters are playable with 4K rendering resolution. But again, you need to tweak per game what's going on. And this is one of the limitations we're going to be noticing throughout different kind of emulators. So let's try some 1080p with some Soviet Strike. I just wanted to see what's going on, and you can just see that we're not hitting the full 60 FPS. So when you would say like Soviet Strike, it's not like a super demanding game, but still like 1080p is way too much for it. So it is a lot of fun just messing around with it. But yeah, I think this is one of the things we need to live with when it comes for playing, let's say, upscaled, let's say newer generation like Sega Saturn, Dreamcast, stuff like that, on a low-end AMD Ryzen chip.
Go! What's up? I'm Ryzen, and this is your Garibaldi. Sweet big air bonus.
But how about PlayStation Portable? Well, we have of course the famous test bench with God of War. You can actually see over here that we're only having 6x rendering resolution enabled. With the simple reason, of course, depending on the game. So when you're going to be having the God of War game, you can actually play, but you do have like a lot of dips. And there's a little bit of a downside, something we need to live with. Again, the GPU power is not enough. And I think that is one of the things that we're going to be facing a lot. However, if you're going to be looking at native resolution or a little bit of upscaling, you can actually do it with many different systems.
Ready. Go.
Mines bomb. Shield active.
The conclusion is very simple. So if you're going to be looking at all kinds of different games, 8-bit, 16-bit, that will run just fine on this. We can play them on very cheap game boxes that are based actually on Android. But when it comes to mini PCs, we do have a little bit of an upscaling. But I think when it comes to this particular version, you're not paying like premium price for it. I'm still thinking like maybe it's better to spend a little bit more money where we could do like higher upscaling. However, if you don't care about upscaling, I think a mini PC like this can be very great for overall emulation. The Herk Pulsar is an interesting, let's say, mini PC. If you want to do dedicated AAA gaming, you're going to be having some limitation due of the onboard GPU. But out of the box, it got like a nice quality feel. It is not really loud when it comes to that. And also, just a compact design, 2 HDMI ports. And if you're going to be upgrading this maybe with an extra, let's say, external GPU, maybe we can do some even more cool things. I'm interested to see that they went for the 5000 series AMD Ryzen, because this is already a quite old one. And support, I do wonder how this is going to be within a near within the near future. Let me know in the comments what you think of these compact designs. Do you really want to have something like this for the 5000 series, or you want to go with something newer? Thank you all for watching, and it will be great to see you in the next video.